Commander Vel'kraa of the Qa'rathi Empire pressed 3 of his manipulator appendages against the observation viewport, his compound eyes tracking the movements of the bipedal creature below. The human shuffled around its containment cell with the casual indifference of a prey animal that didn't yet know it was prey. This one? Vel'kraa's translator implant rendered his clicking mandibles into Galactic standard, some research-led Nisvara. This specimen appears deficient. The human in question, a female designated as Subject 247, sat cross-legged on the floor of her cell, methodically unlacing and relacing her peculiar foot coverings. The boots, Vel'kraa had learned, were a primitive solution to the human's lack of natural armor plating on their ambulatory appendages. Deficient. Nisvara's 4 eye stalks swiveled toward him. Commander, this specimen scored in the 73rd percentile for reaction time among the captured population. She's perfectly average for her species. Precisely my concern. Vel'kraa's chitin plates rippled with what his species considered a sigh. We've been studying these creatures for 3 lunar cycles since their world fell into our quarantine zone. Every simulation suggests they should not have achieved spaceflight, yet we found them scattered across 12 systems. Every biological analysis indicates they're persistent predators from a Deathworld, yet they lack claws, natural weapons, defensive plating. They have teeth, Nisvara interrupted, displaying a holographic image of human dental structure. Quite impressive ones, actually. Omnivore configuration, but those canines are pathetic compared to a Qa'rathi warform's mandibles, or a Thoraxian's crushing beak, or even a Krell's grinding plates. Vel'kraa turned away from the viewport. The Battle Council demands data. They want to know if these humans pose a military threat, or if we simply encountered a species that got lucky with some scavenged technology. The Hunt Trial will provide our answers. The Hunt Trial, an ancient Qa'rathi tradition now adapted for xenological research. Release a proven predator, in this case a Vel'kraa tracking beast from the jungle moon of Qa'rathi, and observe how the prey species responds. The Vel'kraa had been used to test the combat potential of 17 species before humans. 14 species had been killed within minutes. 3 had survived by hiding, earning them minimal threat classifications. None had ever fought back. Subject 247T has been selected because her psychological profile indicates creativity and adaptability, Nisvara explained. Her capture records show she was a wilderness guide on Earth, a profession involving navigating dangerous terrain and educating others about native predators. So she runs from predators professionally. Vel'kraa's mandibles clicked with approval. That may help her survive long enough to provide useful data. How long do you predict? Vel'kraa typically make their kill within 4 to 7 minutes once released, given the human's lack of natural defenses. Nisvara consulted her datapad. I estimate she'll survive between 5 and 9 minutes, possibly longer if she attempts to flee to difficult terrain. Vel'kraa studied the human again. Subject 247T had finished with her boots and was now examining the walls of her containment cell, running her primitive 5-fingered hands along the smooth polymer surface. Searching for weaknesses, perhaps, or simply occupying her time. Begin preparations, Vel'kraa ordered. Transport her to Arena 7. Seal all exits except the observation posts. Release the Vel'kraa from the opposite end. Commander, one of his tactical officers spoke up. Should we arm the human? Standard protocol for survival trials. No. Vel'kraa's decision was immediate. We arm species that have a chance of victory. This is a pure stress response study. We need to observe the human's base capabilities, not how well it can operate Qa'rathi weaponry. Below, Subject 247 looked directly at the observation viewport. For just a moment, Vel'kraa felt as though those binocular eyes, so strange with their exposed white sclera, were staring directly into his neural core. Then she smiled. It was not a threat display. Vel'kraa had studied human expressions extensively. This was something else. Amusement, anticipation, confidence. An uncomfortable sensation rippled through his thorax. The humans were prey creatures playing at being apex predators. That's what all the data suggested. That's what the simulations confirmed. So why did that smile make his combat instincts flare? "Transport her now," Vel'kraa commanded, "and make sure the medical teams are ready. I want the corpse intact for necropsy." Lieutenant Kira Vadim had been in worse situations. Not many worse situations, admittedly, but a few. There was the time her climbing harness failed at 4,000 meters up the Transantarctic range. The winter she'd tracked a rogue polar bear through a whiteout in Svalbard. That memorable afternoon when her sea kayak capsized in orca-heavy waters off Vancouver Island. She'd survived all of those by keeping her head and remembering her training. Assess, adapt, act. The aliens, bug-looking bastards really, all chitin and clicking mandibles, had dragged her from her cell without explanation. No translator implant, so she couldn't understand their chittering. But she recognized a coliseum when she saw one. Arena 7 was roughly circular, maybe 150 meters across. Rocky terrain with scattered boulders and a few scraggly alien trees that looked like purple willows. 2 suns, well, 1 sun and 1 large moon, she corrected herself after judging the light, cast overlapping shadows across the ground. The air smelled like copper and ozone. Her combat boots were still on her feet at least. Standard issue from her National Guard days before she'd left the military for the quieter life of a wilderness guide. Good tread, steel toe, broken in perfectly. She'd been lacing them when the bugs came for her, and they hadn't bothered removing them. Small blessings. The arena walls were 30 meters high, smooth as glass. No climbing that. Around the upper rim, she spotted observation windows, dozens of them. An audience. This was entertainment or science. Probably both. A horn blared. Deep, resonant, utterly alien. Kira dropped into a ready stance, knees bent, weight on the balls of her feet. Years of martial arts training kicked in automatically. She scanned the arena. There. On the far side, a gate was grinding open. Something was moving in the darkness beyond. Kira's threat assessment ran at lightning speed. No weapons, no backup, no extraction. Unknown hostile inbound. Terrain advantages. Rocks for cover or elevation. Trees for concealment, but probably too flimsy for climbing. Disadvantages. Enclosed space, no escape route. Priority 1. Survive long enough to learn what she was fighting. The thing that emerged from the gate made Kira's mouth go dry. It was roughly the size of a Bengal tiger, but built like a hyena, powerful forequarters sloping back, muscular shoulders designed for pulling down prey. 6 legs, each ending in hooked claws that scored the stone floor as it moved. Its head was wedge-shaped, all predator, with a jaw that split vertically as well as horizontally, revealing concentric circles of serrated teeth. 4 eyes, arranged in a square pattern on its face, tracked her with the focused intensity of a natural-born killer. And it was fast. Even in its stalking approach, Kira could see the coiled power in its gait. "Okay," she muttered. "Okay, you're an ambush predator. Pack hunter configuration, but probably solitary for large game. You're testing me first. Looking for weakness." The creature, she mentally dubbed it the Shredder, began to circle. Kira rotated with it, maintaining distance, keeping her guard up. Think. What kills you here? Those claws, that bite, the weight if it tackles you. Speed, definitely speed. What are its weaknesses? She studied it as it moved. Heavy front, light back. Built for the initial charge. The takedown. Not built for extended combat. Those 6 legs were an advantage in some ways. but also meant complex coordination. Trip the front pair and the whole thing might. The shredder charged. No more testing. It came at her like a furry missile, covering 15 meters in under 2 seconds, jaws gaping, claws extended. Kira didn't freeze, didn't panic. She moved. Drop left, roll right, a feint that cost her nothing but made the shredder commit to its trajectory. It sailed past, claws raking empty air. Kira came up on her feet, pivoted, and threw her boot. She'd unlaced the right one earlier, back in her cell. Pure boredom activity, but now it paid dividends. The boot tumbled through the air, a kilogram of leather, steel toe, and rubber sole, and cracked the shredder right in its clustered eyes. It was like throwing a rock at a charging bear, barely an annoyance, but enough to disrupt its sensory input for half a second. Half a second was all Kira needed to reach the nearest boulder, a waist-high piece of volcanic rock with a sharp edge. She grabbed it with both hands, her fingers screaming protest at the weight, and waited. The shredder shook off the boot strike and whirled back toward her, snarling something that sounded like metal tearing. It charged again, lower this time, trying to come in under her center of mass. Kira brought the rock down on its skull with every gram of strength in her body. The impact jarred her arms to the shoulder. The shredder yelped, a horrible piercing sound, and its front legs buckled. But it wasn't done. It twisted, jaws snapping for her ankle. Kira jumped back, one boot, one sock, and grabbed another, smaller rock. As the shredder scrambled to recover, she threw. Aimed for the eyes again, hit low, struck its shoulder instead. But now she understood something crucial. This thing could be hurt. In the observation gallery, Vel'kra's mandibles hung open in shock. She struck it, Nisvara whispered, with a rock. Rewind the footage, Vel'kraa commanded. Show me the boot throw again. The hologram complied, displaying Subject 2 47T's actions in crystalline detail. The human had removed her foot covering. During what period? In a cell. The footage confirmed it. She'd been systematically unlacing and relacing the boot for nearly an hour before transport. Was she preparing a weapon? A junior analyst asked. No, Vel'kraa said slowly. Look at her thermal signature during that period. Low stress markers. She was bored. She removed the covering out of idle fidgeting. And yet she weaponized it within 2.3 seconds of the Vel'kraa's charge, Nisvara noted. Tactical adaptation speed is remarkable. On the arena floor, the battle continued. The Vel'kraa had recovered from the rock strike and was employing a different strategy, circling at a distance, looking for an opening. It had learned that direct charges resulted in pain. Good. Kira needed it cautious, needed time to think. Her right foot was unprotected now, already cut in 2 places from the sharp arena floor. The sock was essentially useless, but she had 1 boot left, and she had rocks, and she had the most important weapon of all. Her brain. The shredder feinted left. Kira didn't bite. She'd seen cougars use that exact same trick on elk. It feinted right. She rotated but held her ground. Then it did something unexpected. It charged the boulder she was using as cover, smashing into it full force. The rock shifted, grinding across the floor, crushing toward Kira. Smart. Eliminate the cover, eliminate the advantage. Kira rolled away, came up running. The shredder pursued, its 6 legs eating up ground. She couldn't outrun it in a straight line, already knew that from the first charge. But she could outthink it. She ran directly toward one of the spindly purple trees. The shredder followed, predator instincts overriding caution. Easy kill. Corner the prey against the obstacle. At the last second, Kira planted her booted foot and pivoted around the tree trunk, using it as a fulcrum. The shredder couldn't stop. Too much momentum, and slammed chest first into the tree. The purple willow thing bent but didn't break. It was more flexible than it looked. The shredder staggered, winded. Kira didn't hesitate. She grabbed a low-hanging branch. It felt like rubbery wood, and swung herself up. Her sock foot slipped, but she hauled herself to the first junction, then the second. The shredder recovered and leaped, missed her by inches. From her perch 4 meters up, Kira finally had a moment to breathe, to assess. The creature couldn't climb, at least not efficiently. Its claws were built for traction and killing, not scaling smooth bark. It circled below, snarling. "Okay, kitty," Kira panted. "Now we're learning about each other." She tested the branch above her. Strong enough. She pulled herself higher, gaining elevation, creating distance. The shredder jumped again, claws catching the trunk, scrabbling for purchase. It gained a meter before sliding back down. Not a climber. Good to know, but Kira couldn't stay in the tree forever. Already her arms were shaking from the effort of holding on with minimal footholds, and she could see the shredder's tactic. Wait, outlast. Let the prey exhaust itself. It was a good tactic. Would probably work eventually, unless she changed the game. Kira looked up at the observation windows. The aliens were watching. This was a test, but a test of what? Raw survival, combat ability, intelligence? Or was it simpler than that? Did humans break or fight when cornered? Well, she'd spent her whole adult life teaching people that when you meet a predator in the wild, you don't run. You don't play prey. You make yourself scary. You become the thing that's not worth the trouble. Time to upgrade from scary to dangerous. Kira pulled herself to the top of the tree, 8 meters up now, and began testing branches, looking for the right size, the right weight, the right shape. The shredder watched below, patient. Kira smiled. "Here, boy," she called down. "Fetch." She broke off a branch, 1/2 meter long, thick as her wrist, ending in a sharp point where it had snapped. It wasn't a spear, not really. But it was spear-adjacent, and that would have to do. The shredder tilted its head, 4 eyes tracking her movements. Kira tested her grip on the makeshift weapon, felt the weight, judged the distance. Then she jumped. Vel'kra's combat neural cluster fired warnings through his entire nervous system as the human leaped from the tree. "She's attempting suicide," someone started. But Subject 247T wasn't falling helplessly. She was diving, arm extended, clutching the broken branch like a thrust spear, using her entire body weight as kinetic force. The Vel'kraa looked up 1/2 second too late. The human plunged the improvised weapon directly into the creature's muscular shoulder, the gap where the front leg joined the body, where armor plates were thinnest. Both bodies crashed to the ground. The Vel'kraa shrieked. The human rolled with the impact, came up on her feet, one booted, one not, and kicked the Vel'kraa in its wounded shoulder. The creature collapsed, 3 of its 6 legs now compromised. It snapped at her, jaws clacking shut centimeters from her thigh. The human jumped back, grabbed another rock, and threw it at the Vel'kraa's face. Not the eyes this time, the jaw, hinge. The rock struck true. Something crunched. "Medical team to Arena 7, Vel'kraa heard himself ordering. "For the Vel'kraa." "Sir?" The medical coordinator's confusion was palpable. "The Vel'kraa has never required." Now. On the arena floor, the battle was effectively over. The Vel'kraa was attempting to retreat, limping on its remaining functional legs. The human pursued, not to kill, Vel'kraa realized, but to maintain pressure, to ensure the predator knew it had been beaten. Subject 247. T retrieved her thrown boot from where it lay in the dirt, sat down on a boulder, the same one she'd used as a weapon earlier, and calmly began pulling it back onto her torn, bleeding foot. The entire engagement had lasted 11 minutes and 43 seconds. "Impossible," Nisavara breathed. "The Vel'kraa has a 94% kill rate against armed opponents. This human had nothing but rocks and primitive foot coverings." And her mind, Vel'kraa corrected quietly. Show me the engagement analysis. Every decision point. The hologram painted a picture that made his tactical training rebel against its own conclusions. The human had weaponized arbitrary objects, boot, rocks, branch, used terrain to negate the Vel'kraa's speed advantage, adapted tactics in real time based on observed weaknesses, employed deception, feints, misdirection, struck opportunistically with improvised weapons, executed a high-risk aerial attack despite inferior physical capabilities. She fought like a Qa'rathi war commander, one of his officers said, awe evident in the translated words. Multiple tactical layers, turning environmental factors into force multipliers. She fought like a human, Vel'kraa corrected. This is what they are. This is what we missed. He pulled up the xenological files on Earth, the reports his people had compiled during initial contact. Human history was a cascade of violence, wars, conquests, survival against predators that should have wiped them out in their evolutionary infancy. They'd killed the saber-toothed cats and the cave bears. They'd hunted the mammoth to extinction. They'd turned wolves into pets, and then they'd turned on each other with the same ruthless efficiency. They're persistent predators, Vel'kraa said slowly, but not like we thought. It's not just their endurance, it's their minds. They persistence hunt solutions. They'll try 1,000 different approaches until one works, and they'll weaponize anything, rocks, sticks, their own clothing. Commander, she's leaving the arena. Vel'kraa's eye stalks swiveled back to the display. Indeed, Subject 247T had finished lacing her boot and was now walking, limping slightly, toward the gate the Vel'kraa had entered through. The gate that should have been sealed. The gate that the Vel'kraa's retreat had left damaged, slightly ajar. The human examined it, found the manual release mechanism, designed for Qa'rathi manipulators, but similar enough to human hands, and opened it. Security protocols, Vel'kraa barked. She's not attempting escape, Commander. She's going after the Vel'kraa. Indeed. The human disappeared through the gate, following the blood trail the wounded predator had left. Vel'kraa's neural core processed implications at combat speed. The human had won. The test was complete. She should be exhibiting relief behaviors, rest, recovery, stress release. Instead, she was pursuing her attacker. Why? The security feed showed her moving through the access corridors, following the Vel'kraa's trail. Medical teams scattered as she approached. She ignored them, focused entirely on her quarry. She found the Vel'kraa in a corner, favoring its wounded legs, defensive and in pain. The human approached slowly, non-threatening posture. She knelt down, both knees deliberately vulnerable, just outside the creature's striking range, and she extended her hand. "What is she doing?" Nisavara demanded. Vel'kraa understood. The realization hit him like a ship-class weapon. "She's checking if it's okay," he whispered. "She won the fight. Now she's making sure she didn't hurt it too badly." The human made soft sounds, vocal patterns the translator couldn't parse, but the tone was clear, soothing, reassuring. She pulled something from a pocket, a piece of the emergency ration she'd been given in her cell, and tossed it to the Vel'kraa. The predator sniffed it, confused but no longer aggressive. Subject 247T, Vel'kraa spoke directly through the arena's communication system, his words rendered in human English for the first time. "You have passed the test. Medical assistance is on the way." The human looked up at the nearest camera and gave him another one of those uncomfortable smiles. "Your creepy space dog attacked me," she said conversationally. "That means you attacked me. We're going to have words about that, bug friend." Then she sat down next to the Vel'kraa, still maintaining cautious distance, and waited for the medical teams, guarding the creature that had tried to kill her. The council chamber of the Qa'rathi battle fleet was designed to intimidate. vaulted ceilings that soared into shadow, bioluminescent panels that painted everything in harsh, crimson light, seats arranged in concentric circles, placing the speaker at the center of overwhelming scrutiny. Vel'kraa stood in that center now, mandibles steady, posture correct. But his neural core was cycling through threat responses his body couldn't act on. "Explain," Grand Admiral Thexvara commanded from the highest tier, "why your simple survival trial has resulted in a recommendation to reclassify humanity from minimal threat to apex concern." Vel'kraa activated the holographic display. Subject 2, 47T, appeared in miniature. Frozen mid-leap, improvised spear extended toward the Vel'kraa's vulnerable point. "This is the moment," Vel'kraa began, "when I realized we'd made a catastrophic error in our threat assessment." He walked the council through the entire engagement, showed them the tactical adaptations, the improvised weapons, the calculated risks, the pursuit not for killing but for checking on the wounded predator. "One human," Council member Rixthal observed dryly. "Unarmed. Against a single Vel'kraa. This proves they're resourceful, Commander, not that they're a threat to the Empire. With respect, Council member, you're making the same mistake I made." Vel'kraa changed the display. "We've been thinking of humans as individuals, but their true horror is collective." New footage appeared. Security recordings from the human quarantine facility. Vel'kraa had ordered comprehensive surveillance after the Arena 7 incident. "Watch what happened when Subject 2, 47T, returned to general population." The humans had been kept in a large communal area, 500 individuals, all survivors of Earth's forced evacuation during the quarantine. They'd been docile for 3 lunar cycles, compliant, seemingly broken. Until Subject 2, 47T arrived. She'd gone straight to the eye center of the room, climbed onto a table, and started talking. The translator couldn't capture every nuance, but the meaning was clear. "Tested us. They wanted to see what we could do. So I showed them, used a rock, a stick, and my boot to take down their hunting beast. Now they're scared. Good. Let them be scared." Cheers. Applause. Humans gathering around her. "But here's what matters," she continued. "They're studying us, learning about us. And every second we're in here, we're learning about them, their language, their technology, their weaknesses." More cheers. The energy in the room shifting from despair to something else. Hope, defiance, planning. Within 6 hours, Vel'kraa narrated, the humans had organized. They created working groups, language decryption, structural analysis, guard rotation patterns. They're treating their imprisonment as a reconnaissance opportunity. "So they're organized," Thexvara said. "Species organize when threatened. This is expected. Respectfully, Grand Admiral, you still don't understand." Vel'kraa pulled up one more file. "I ran historical analysis on humanity's conflict records. When humans are invaded, when they're outmatched, when every tactical advantage favors their enemy, they don't surrender, they evolve." The hologram showed a cascade of human military history. Guerrilla warfare, asymmetric tactics, the Vietnam War, Afghanistan, urban resistance movements. "They weaponize everything," Vel'kraa continued. "During their Second World War, a conflict where 70 million humans died, they went from propeller aircraft to jet fighters in under 5 years, from basic computing to breaking enemy encryption, from traditional warfare to nuclear weapons. They don't just adapt to threats, they accelerate." He paused, letting the data settle in. "And that's when they're fighting each other. Other humans. Imagine what they'll do when faced with an external threat. With us." "You're suggesting," Rixthal said slowly, "that our containment action will provoke a warfare response." "I'm not suggesting. I'm confirming." Vel'kraa displayed the latest intelligence. 3 days ago, we detected unauthorized transmissions from the quarantine facility. The humans had built a communications device from scavenged food dispensers, medical equipment, and the metallic threads in their clothing. Stunned silence. They sent a message to their colony ships, the ones that escaped the initial containment. The message contained everything they've learned about our species, our technology, our facility layouts, and it ended with this. Vel'kraa played the audio. Subject 247T's voice, calm and clear. To all human vessels, they're not invincible. They're just another predator. And we've been killing predators since the caves. Hold the line. We're coming home, and we're bringing friends. Friends, HFY demanded. We've intercepted communications between human vessels and 3 other species. The Krell, the Thoraxians, and the Zenthari, all species we've previously defeated or subjugated. Vel'kraa's mandibles clicked with something like admiration. The humans are forming alliances, offering them something we never did, partnership instead of conquest, mutual benefit instead of submission. This is unprecedented. This is humanity. Vel'kraa deactivated the hologram. We thought they were prey creatures playing at civilization. We were wrong. They're predators who learn to cooperate, to share kills, to plan across generations. Every human carries the genetic memory of surviving extinction-level predators. They don't just fight, they outlast. They wait centuries if needed, and they never, ever forget. Grand Admiral HFY was silent for a long moment. Your recommendation? Immediate cessation of hostilities. Release all human captives, open diplomatic channels, and pray, they're willing to negotiate. Vel'kraa's voice was steady despite his fear. Because if we make humans our enemy, if we prove to them that we're existential threats, they won't fight us until they win. They'll fight us until we're extinct. One human defeated one Vel'kraa, Rixthal protested. You're extrapolating impossibly. One human defeated a Vel'kraa with a boot, Vel'kraa interrupted. Imagine what they'll do with actual weapons, with motivation, with generations to plan. Grand Admiral, we either make peace with humanity now, or we'll be making a very different kind of history. The council chamber fell silent, save for the subtle clicking of mandibles, the Qa'rathi equivalent of nervous breathing. Finally, HFY spoke. Begin diplomatic proceedings. Release the captives, and someone get me. Subject 247T. I need to apologize. She prefers to be called Lieutenant Kira Vadim, Vel'kraa said quietly. And she's already requested an audience. She has terms. Terms? She's a prisoner. No, Grand Admiral. She was never a prisoner. She was an ambassador who didn't know it yet. Vel'kraa allowed himself a small gesture of respect, the mandible dip usually reserved for honored opponents. The humans sent us a boot. It's time we understood the message. 6 months after the Arena 7 incident, Kira stood on the observation deck of the newly christened ESS Resilience, Earth's first joint venture warship, built with Qa'rathi engineering and human innovation. Through the viewport, a fleet stretched to the horizon. Qa'rathi battlecruisers alongside human destroyers. Krell fighters in formation with Thoraxian interceptors. The galactic landscape had changed. Behind her, Vel'kraa approached, his gait more casual now. They'd formed something like friendship over the past months, born from mutual respect and the shared understanding that they'd both been changed by Arena 7. Your people are adapting well to Qa'rathi propulsion systems, Vel'kraa observed. Our engineers say humans have an uncanny ability to reverse engineer anything they see once. We're good at taking things apart to see how they work. Kira smiled. Usually works better than reading the manual. I've noticed. There was warmth in Vel'kraa's translated voice. I also notice you're still wearing those boots. Kira looked down at her feet. The same combat boots from the arena, now legendary. A museum on Earth had requested them. She'd declined. These boots walked into an alien death match, and walked back out, she said. They're staying with me. The Vel'kraa asks about you sometimes. How's he doing? She's well. Full recovery. She's actually requested assignment to human contact training. Apparently, she respects you. The feeling's mutual. She's a hell of a fighter. Kira's expression turned serious. Vec, you got a minute? For you? Always. They moved to a quieter corner of the observation deck.
Kira pulled up a holographic display. Star charts, tactical assessments, probability matrices. The Zenthari are making moves in the outer rim, she said. Nothing overt yet, but the pattern recognition algorithms we've been running show a 76% chance they're massing for an assault on the Krell homeworld. Vel'kraa studied the data, his combat neural clusters firing. This is worrying. Have you shared this with Command? Sharing it now. We need a response plan within 48 hours. Kira zoomed in on a cluster of systems. I'm thinking we deploy a mixed fleet. Human long-range reconnaissance, Qa'rathi, heavy hitters, Krell knowledge of local space. Hit them with overwhelming force before they can organize. You want to strike first? Vel'kraa's mandibles clicked with surprise. This is not how humans were described to us. Your files said you were explorers, scientists. We're also really, really good at preventing fights we might lose. Kira's smile had edges. Better to stop a war before it starts than fight it on someone else's terms. Isn't that what you taught me in Arena 7? Control the battlefield, dictate the engagement, never fight fair when you can fight smart. Vel'kraa was quiet for a moment. Then his mandibles curved in what Kira had learned to recognize as amusement. I created a monster. You created a partnership. Kira held out her hand. The human gesture Vel'kraa had learned meant trust. We've got a galaxy to protect, bug friend. You in? Vel'kraa placed one of his manipulator appendages in her palm. The contact felt strange, alien, but also fundamentally right. I'm in, he said, though I maintain that releasing a Vel'kraa to test human reflexes was scientifically sound. You threw a space tiger at me and expected me to die. We expected data. You got data. You also got an alliance, trade agreements, and me kicking your tracking beast's ass with a boot. Kira laughed. Best-worst decision you ever made. Admit it. The boot is now famous across 17 systems, Vel'kraa conceded. Human recruitment centers report enrollment increases of 340% since the footage was released. And yes, fine, releasing the Vel'kraa may have been the most fortuitous mistake in Qa'rathi history. They stood together, watching the fleet. So many species, working together for the first time in galactic history, all because a human and a bug alien had learned to see past their assumptions. You know what the scary part is? Kira said quietly. For all our species' differences, we're basically the same. We're all just trying to survive in a dangerous galaxy. We all have families, ambitions, fears. We all bleed. You're right, Vel'kraa agreed. And that's why this works. We recognize the predator in each other and choose partnership instead of dominance. An alert chimed. Kira checked her datapad and grinned. Fleet exercises start in 10 minutes. Commander Nisavara has requested both of us for the war games. What's the scenario? Asymmetric combat simulation. Humans and Qa'rathi versus Krell and Thoraxians. Low-tech weapons only. Kira's grin widened. I might have suggested it. You want to throw boots at our allies? I want to teach them what we learned. That weapons don't make the warrior. Adaptation does. Cooperation does. Refusing to give up does. She started toward the exit, then paused. Plus, watching Nisavara try to figure out human tactics is hilarious. She still can't believe I won with a boot. Vel'kraa followed, his mandibles clicking with laughter, another human habit he'd picked up. For what it's worth, he said, I'm glad we released the Vel'kraa. I'm glad you kicked its ass. I'm glad you made us look stupid. Because
Because stupid and wrong is fixable. Stupid and arrogant would have started a war. He gestured at the fleet, at the future they were building together. All of this, exists because you taught us humility with a boot and a rock. And you taught me that aliens can learn, Kira countered. That the galaxy's big enough for all of us if we stop trying to dominate and start trying to understand. They walked together toward the war games, human and Qa'rathi, friend and friend. Behind them, through the viewport, the fleet shimmered in the light of a dozen suns, a testament to what happens when predators choose partnership over territory. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, full of unknowns. But humanity had arrived, and they'd brought their boots. Did you enjoy this story? Want more tales of human ingenuity against impossible odds? Follow for more HFY, humanity, feck yeah. Stories where humans prove that the most dangerous weapon in the universe is the refusal to give up. Drop a comment with your favorite moment. Was it the boot throw, the tree jump, or Kira befriending the creature that tried to kill her? Let's discuss what makes humanity special in the cosmos.